Guys, guess what time it is? It's cookie season. I'm Ella here, your favorite Girl Scout, and we have your oldies but goodies. Lemonades, dimmits, peanut butter sandwiches, and more. This year we have a new cookie flavor called the Explore Mug. My goal is 200 boxes, so please make that happen. You're gonna buy cookies anyway, so why not buy them from me?
What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for February 10th, 2026. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the podcast. It is Tuesday. That means it's time for a little motivation / positivity brought to you by the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network. Go to clashingconferences.com to see what they have to offer, how you can join. Always looking for new members, so go check them out. We are proud members here at This Day in Philly Sports History. And today, we're going to go back to one of my favorites. No, it's not Mark Manson. I use him a lot, but this dude always seems to have a good quote up his sleeve. And that is Henry Ford. So Henry said, "There is no person living that can do more than that they think that they can. There is no person living that can do more than they think they can." And I really like that because it's very powerful if you just stop and think about what he's saying. There's no person living that can't do more than they think they can. And I slacked through January looking for jobs, everything. So I slacked, but I just started yesterday, workout routine, figured use something that fit into my time and everything. So I'm doing a personalized Peloton workout. And we tend to stop or pause when things get tough or hard. That's why part of the reason why I slacked in January, because I was just so busy. It probably would have done me well to go and continue to work out. But we tend to stop, pause, or think, all right, this is too tough. I can't do it. But we're all capable of doing more. We're all capable of doing great things. It's the old mind over matter type of mindset. Like, my mind is telling me no, so I'm going to stop. But I think what we need to do is, especially with workouts, it's easy. You're training your body, but you got to train your mind too. But have that growth mindset. And as an educator, we teach, and as a parent, teach the growth mindset to students and my kids all the time. Yeah, you can't do that yet, but you got to work at it. My son wanted to be a pitcher, and he was getting frustrated at first because he was a little wild. All he wanted to do was throw heat like Duran. And I said, no, you got to learn the mechanics. And it was frustrating. There were a lot of fights. We paid for lessons, but he was able to get it together. He made the travel team, and he continues to work at it. But that whole growth mindset, the power of yet, you can't do that yet. It's easy to say I can't do it and not try. But it's another thing to say I can't do that yet and continue to work at it and go get after it. Because we are capable of doing great things. And I think when things get tough, think of the discomfort that you feel. I dealt with that this morning. I was doing a lifting workout, I haven't lifted in a few months. And that discomfort is the starting line to unlocking your full potential. So when things start getting hard, stop, take a deep breath. All right, this is where I'm starting because I want this to be easy. And then you continue to do that as you progress. And I saw this as a part of this quote. Your brain is a safety officer, wants you to be comfortable, wants to keep you out of harm's way, doesn't want you to have that feeling of discomfort whatsoever. So that's like the safety officer, but your spirit, your sort of mindset, the way you want to do things, that's the explorer. So as you go through and you're doing things, whether it's at work, whether you're starting a new hobby, a workout routine, you want to get better at anything, listen to that explorer side more. Don't let your brain tell you, nope, okay, we're comfortable. This is where we're going to stop. Use the +1 method. And I really like this. One more minute if you're running or walking, one more rep, one more. I'm going to read for one more minute than I did yesterday, or I'm going to work on this one more minute, or I'm going to try this one more thing. And the next thing you know, one more turns into two more, turns into three more. And before you know it, you're going to look back and be like, wow, look how far I've come. So hopefully that is something you can take through your weeks. There's no person living that can't do more than they think they can. If you don't think you can do it, guess what? You can't. But if you think you can, you'll get there. You're going to work hard. You're going to get stronger. You're going to get smarter. You're going to get better at whatever it is if you think that you can do it, and then work and then be comfortable being uncomfortable. We talk about a lot. I've heard that a lot this past few weeks with Jalen Hurts and the new offensive coordinator. He needs to be comfortable being uncomfortable to try new things. And I think it's something that obviously for the best of the best athletes, they can do, but it's something that we can take in our everyday lives. So be comfortable being uncomfortable. There's no person living that can't do more than they think they can. Thank you, Henry Ford, for that. That is Tuesday Motivation, brought to you by the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network. Go to clashingconferences.com for details on what they have to offer. All right, speaking of those Eagles, they did hire a replacement for Jeff Stoutland, and it's Chris Cooper, the former offensive line coach for Minnesota. Obviously, he has some very, very big shoes to fill. Didn't get his contract renewed from the Vikings, partly because they struggled. But this past season, they had, I think I've read 22 different offensive line combinations. And thinking back on the Vikings the past few years, did they really have good players as offensive line? So it's one of those things. Yes. Is he going to be Jeff Stoutland? No. Could he be a very capable fill-in? Absolutely, especially if you're going with a new scheme and starting everything over. But I look at it like this. Can't be worse than what the offensive line played last year. Maybe Chris Cooper can come in and make them make one more block. They were one block away all last year, so hopefully Chris can do it. But the coaching staff is starting to fill out, hopefully nicely. We'll see what happens. And I want to mention this too, kind of two parts here. Lots of flack on AJ yesterday. And it's like, no, like you cannot think that this team will be better without AJ Brown on this team. And whether or not it's posturing by the Eagles and AJ for a trade, I don't know. I will stand firm on this. You don't trade AJ Brown. And for all the people that were in my comments and DMs saying, gotta get rid of the quarterback, are you nuts? Look at who just played in the Super Bowl. You mean to tell me that from the quarterback position as a whole, you're going to tell me that the way Drake May played and Sam Darnold played in that Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts couldn't do that? Come on now. I'm not saying Jalen is a top 5 quarterback, and you'll never hear me say that. And quite frankly, I don't care about lists and things like that. Jalen is our franchise quarterback. You build the team around him. Now, is his seat hot? Absolutely. Does he need to get comfortable being uncomfortable? Does he need to do more than he believes he can? Absolutely. But Jalen's not going to be a 5,000-yard passer. It's just not the way the offense is built. That's just not his style. So thank you for interacting with me on social media, haters. All right, to the hardwood. Sixers ended their West Coast swing with a 135-118 loss to the Trailblazers yesterday. They were shorthanded. No Joel, no Quentin Grimes, no Dominic Barlow. Last game of the road trip. They're coming home. Big game on Wednesday against the Knicks. As Doc Rivers used to say, I think this was a scheduled loss for the Sixers. Tyrese Maxey did have 30, but I think they're looking ahead, and quite frankly, a game at home against the Knicks is far more important for the Sixers than a game out west. Last game of a West Coast trip against the Trailblazers. But as Doc used to say, I believe this was a scheduled loss. All right, we are 1 day away from pitchers and catchers officially starting spring training for the Phillies. That means forget what Punxsutawney Phil said. That means spring is around the corner. And Rob Thompson and Dave Dombrowski did speak yesterday. Zach Wheeler will not be ready for opening day. I don't think that was a shock. But they did say he's not going to be too far behind, and they're going to be looking for some pitching depth. So I think that amps up the pressure on Andrew Painter. I think it amps up the pressure on a guy like Taijuan Walker. Amps up the pressure on a guy like Aaron Nola because you can't leave Sanchez and Luzardo out there to dry. So I'm like I said, I have lower expectations from a team perspective, but I'm anxious to see what these young guys can do. And Nick Castellanos is still on the team, but they are looking to get rid of him. Something tells me they will release him before the players officially report. Worth monitoring, though, because at this point, everybody knows it. They're very open about it. You're not going to be able to get anything in a trade for him. So we'll see how that plays out. But pitchers and catchers tomorrow, the real Groundhog's Day, meaning that spring is around the corner. All right, some quick housekeeping notes. Be sure to follow me on social media at Philly Jimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. Continue to spread the word as I'm trying to grow this thing. You can still check out the Brotherly Birds breakdown, available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. We talk a lot about the coaching staff changes and things like that. We'll be back with a brand new episode early in March, taking a look at the free agency predictions and market for the Eagles. And of course, I didn't mention this yesterday, but one of the highlights of a very, very bad Super Bowl was our own Eagle, Lincoln, the bald eagle who flies in from the top of Lincoln Financial Field, made his acting debut in a commercial for Budweiser, hanging out with one of the Clydesdale. Pretty cool. I think it was a Clydesdale, or maybe it was just a regular horse. Either way, Lincoln got some airtime, which you got to love that. All right, and if you are watching this in the morning, and if you're not, it might be on at some point during the day. But we talked our Olympic spotlight yesterday with Andrew Heo. He's actually on the ice now for Team USA in the team medley. So if you can, check out, and we wish him good luck. But today's Olympic spotlight, we are going to go to curling. I was watching some of the mixed team curling yesterday. United States is in position to get a medal, which was pretty cool. Just for some reason, curling is just one of those things that it's you have to watch it when it's on. So we were watching that last night. But today, we are going to spotlight Taylor Anderson Hyde, who is a curler. She's a Broomall native, got her start, which I think it was the Paoli Curling Club. Now it's the Philadelphia Curling Club, but it's in Paoli. This is her first Olympics. She's looking to take the medal for the women's curling. Her first match is February 12th. So let's go make the area proud and bring home the gold. Taylor Anderson Hyde, curler, Broomall native, is today's Olympic spotlight. These are all athletes with somewhat of a Olympic tie. And unfortunately, I did see this morning too, Summer Britcher, who we spotlighted the other day. She hit a wall in her first run yesterday. She's currently sitting in 12th place. So we wish her luck. Hopefully she can move up the, I guess they will play or race again tomorrow. So hopefully she can move up the standing somewhat as well. All right, yesterday's trivia question. I asked you how many and who of Heisman Trophy winner, I'll get it out. I said, how many Heisman Trophy winners and who were they did have the Eagles drafted in their history? Well, if you're paying attention yesterday, I gave you one. That's Jay Berwanger in 1935, Davey O'Brien in 1938, John Hort in 1964, and of course, Skinny Batman, Devontae Smith in 2020. Want to show off your Philly pride without saying a word? Philly Goat has you covered. From tees, hoodies, shoes, and hats, their gear screams Philly louder than an Eagles fan at the vet. Whether you're tailgating in South Philly or trying to flex down the Jersey Shore, do it in style. Hit up phillygoat.com, use the promo code Jim Montgomery, and get 10% off your order. Philly Goat, because being Philly ain't a choice, it's a way of life. Go Birds! All right, February 10th. First, we're going to go back to 1949. And on this day in 1949, the Philadelphia Warriors beat the Indianapolis Jets at the old Philadelphia Arena 108 to 87. Joe Fulks scored 63 points for the Warriors on 27 of 56 shooting, setting the NBA single game scoring record. That would last almost 10 years until Elgin Baylor broke it with 64. And then, of course, we know Wilt just went on a tear, broke the record multiple times. Now, the old Philadelphia Arena was down at 45th and Market. These are kind of my favorite things to kind of get out there. But 45th and Market was the old Philadelphia Arena. You might be wondering, who the hell are the Indianapolis Jets? Well, unfortunately, they were in the old original basketball league before it merged with the NBA, and they folded after that 1949 season. But on this day, in 1949, Joe Fulks scores 33, setting the NBA single-game scoring record, a record that would last 10 years until Elgin Baylor broke it in 1959. Fast forward all the way to 1988, and the newly number one ranked Temple Owls and the number 20th ranked Villanova Wildcats put on a show at McGonigal Hall, a Big Five classic. Many people recognize this as one of the greatest Big Five games of all time. Temple outlasted Villanova 98 to 86. A John Chaney team scoring 98 points. What? But Howard Evans dished out 20 assists in this game, setting a Temple record for assists in a game. He added 17 points. Mark Macon added 31, including going 14 for 14 from the line in the final minutes of this game to help seal it for the Owls. Mike Vrieswick had 19. Doug West had 27 for Villanova. And the capacity crowd of 4,500 at McGonigal Hall. If you've ever been to McGonigal Hall, it's a tiny place. I've seen a few basketball games there. It gets intense. The actual attendance was probably 4,800. And as I was reading in the paper, it was standing room only. Because you ever go to McGonigal, it was actually a building that classes were in. So they had that upper walkway that people used to stand on as well. But likely didn't want to get in trouble with the fire department. So probably about 4,800 over capacity. But this was old school Big Five at its finest. Temple outlasting Villanova 98-86. Howard Evans setting the school record with 20 assists in a game. He was 1 or 2 away, I forget exactly, from the national record for assists in a game. But number 1 Temple beat number 20 Villanova on this day, 98-86 at McGonigal Hall. And then we have a pair of NBA All-Star games. First, we're going to go back to 1991, and the NBA All-Star game took place at Charlotte Coliseum. The East beat the West 116-114. Sixers were represented by Charles Barkley and Hersey Hawkins. Hawkins had 6 points and an assist in 14 minutes. Charles Barkley was a starter, had 17 points and 22 rebounds, which was the most rebounds in an All-Star game since Wilt put up 22 in 1967. That was good enough for Charles to win the MVP. But this was the classic All-Star game of my youth. You had guys like Larry Bird, Clyde Drexler, Patrick Ewing, and of course the GOAT, Michael Jordan, playing in this game. But the East beat the West. Charles Barkley scoring 17, grabbing 22 rebounds en route to the MVP award that year. And then fast forward to 2002, the NBA All-Star Game took place in Philly at the First Union Center. National anthem was sang by Patti LaBelle. Elton John performed at halftime. Sixers were represented by Allen Iverson and Dikembe Mutombo, both who started for the East that day. AI, though, didn't have his best game. A year after winning MVP, only had 5 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. Dikembe was solid, had 8 points, 10 rebounds with a block, but it was all about the West as they beat the East 135-120. Lower Marion's Kobe Bryant scored 31 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and a steal, grabbing the MVP trophy, and then he was booed. And this was a very, very big national story that Kobe Bryant, hometown hero Kobe Bryant, was booed. But this was also, again, coming on the heels of him ripping the hearts out, taking pride in saying he ripped their hearts out of Sixers and Sixers fans everywhere the year before in the NBA Finals. So he said he was a little upset, but come on, Kobe. Like, you had to expect that. But we all made up with Kobe later. More on that in a minute here. Another big story in this game was Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier were sitting next to each other courtside. The two had a long-standing feud stemming from their days as boxers. Neither one of them really liked each other in real life, but this is where they kind of buried the hatchet at the All-Star game in Philly. So it wasn't all bad. But Kobe Bryant wins the MVP as the East beats the West 130, 135, 120 at the FU Center. But more importantly, Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier buried the hatchet and made up. But that does lead us nicely right into our final segment, our Black History Month Forged in Philly. Yesterday we talked about Pop. Today we're going to talk about Kobe. Now, Kobe was born in Philly. He was raised overseas during his formative years, moved back to the main line down on at Lower Merion. But all of those experiences are what helped shape Kobe. The roots in Philly helped sharpen the chip on his shoulder. He wasn't from Philly necessarily, and we all know how we're very that the mainline stuff with Villanova. The true Philly people are like, I don't know if that's Philly or not. So Kobe obviously had a chip on his shoulder, but having to deal with you're not really a Philly guy definitely sharpened the chip on his shoulder. He had all the potential in the world, all the resources in the world due to his dad being a former NBA player and being an overseas player and coach. But he had to prove his worth. I mean, and I remember this as a high school kid, seeing him. We were big. He was a rival of us in high school, Rip Hamilton guy. But then he made the announcement with the sunglasses on his head. I'm going straight to the NBA. Taking my talents to the NBA, I think he said, before LeBron said. Of course, LeBron stole his thing, but that's neither here nor there. Taking Brandy to his prom, all of that other stuff. We talked about being booed at the All-Star game, but he ripped our hearts out and took pride in it. And I think deep down, we were pissed off that the Sixers lost, but deep down, that's a total Philly move to do. Saying, I don't care. All I'm doing, I'm worried about winning a championship, that whole Mamba mentality. All of these experiences, all of those things, I think is what helped forge that Mamba mentality. Kobe was a killer on the court. Didn't care about anything. Got Shaq kicked out of LA and still was able to win a title without him. He was held to high expectations and he exceeded them. So I think, like I said, deep down, Kobe was a Philly guy. It's just that he did it via LA and he wasn't one of our guys. And I think had Kobe actually played in Philly, we would have embraced him the way we embraced Allen Iverson, the way we embraced Brian Dawkins. And we did. We embraced him later in life. I think we realized just how good he was and how much he would have been the perfect fit to play in this city. Of course, a lot of that was helped with the Eagles winning the Super Bowl and seeing him wearing his jersey, celebrating with his kid, having the exact same reaction I did. They're going to have him win the Super Bowl. They're going to have him win the Super Bowl. Trying not to wake up his kids, which, like I said, that really started to change my mentality on Kobe. And I really do. I firmly believe that Kobe would have been the perfect player to play in Philly. So Kobe was forged by Philly to believe that greatness is earned daily. You have to prove your worth because in this city, respect is never given. It is earned. And Kobe not only earned it, he took it. He absolutely just snatched it and said, here we go. So Kobe Bryant is today's Forged by Philly. I know a lot of people out there are probably like, oh, he's from the main line. He lived in Italy. But Kobe definitely has that old school gritty Philly mentality. And I think he would have been a great player to have in this city. And that leads us directly into today's trivia question. Obviously, Kobe spent his entire career with the Lakers. However, he was not drafted by the Lakers. Who drafted Kobe Bryant? Some of you, this might be a layup. Some of you, this might be a struggle because the trade that happened after the draft almost didn't happen because the one guy involved in that trade almost said, nope, I'm going to retire before I go play there. Luckily, it didn't. So hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line 267 495 8531. Would love to know your thoughts on Kobe. I was a staunch Kobe Bryant hater for his entire career, mostly stemming back to high school when he beat my Coatesville Red Raiders twice, once in a regular season and once in a district semifinal game. One of the most ridiculous games I've ever seen, by the way. But later in life, I really, as I matured, as he matured, I realized he would have been the perfect fit in this city. So Kobe Bryant, forged in Philly, but what team originally drafted him? On this day in 2002, the All-Star Game took place in Philly. Kobe Bryant took home the MVP. 1991, Charles Barkley won the MVP of the All-Star Game down in Charlotte. 1988, a Big Five classic. Number 1 Temple beat number 20 Villanova 98-86 at McGonigal Hall. I love the Liacouras Center, but McGonigal Hall was a fun place to watch some basketball. And in 1949, Joe Fulks of the Philadelphia Warriors set the NBA single game scoring record with 63 points in a 108-87 win over the Indianapolis Jets. We'll have more from Philly spring training tomorrow. Of course, anything that comes up with the Eagles. Flyers, thankfully, are still on the All-Star or Olympic break. NBA All-Star game is coming up, but on the horizon tomorrow, big matchup, Sixers-Knicks at the Xfinity Mobile Arena. I have a feeling Sixers are going to have a full squad for that game. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for February 10th, 2026. Remember, there is no person living that can't do more than they think they can. Thank you for that, Henry Ford. Take that throughout your weeks with you. Go have yourselves a Tuesday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.